I thought I'd do a video this afternoon, another video on the DeWalt 790 and the progress I've made, and maybe a few more things that might be of interest about the saw. The first thing I do when I buy a new saw is I go on the internet to a place, Vintage Machinery website, and download the repair manual. This is the repair manual for the DeWalt 790, also known as the 799. It may focus on that right down there, also known as the 799. This is for a Type 4. This repair manual, mine is a Type 1. But they're virtually identical. Whatever minor changes there are don't matter. This again has wiring diagrams, blow-ups of different parts of the saw. Again, you can't order all these parts, but at least you know how things are supposed to go together. It's got all the procedures in there for adjusting the table to the arm, adjusting the heel, adjusting the blade square, adjusting the arm perpendicular to the fence. If you follow this instruction manual, you'll come out with a pretty darn good saw. It's just so easy to get. You download it in a PDF file, print it out on your printer, and bring it out into the garage when you're working on your saw, and life will be much easier. So today I put a new cord on my saw. So I just thought I'd say a few things about that. I'm not going to go completely through the procedure because it's kind of, I don't know. It took me about an hour, believe it or not. It took about an hour to put a cord on this because you're working in pretty tight quarters, and so here's a few of the things I learned. Let me turn the motor around where you can see what's going on. You'll see that this works tremendously better now that I've got this adjusted properly. All right. So you need to tilt the saw there. You also need to tilt the saw up. All right. Everything you're going to do is going to take place inside this panel, behind this end cap, and that's about it. You got to feed your wires through, but all your wire connections will be right here and right here. What you're going to need to make life simple, I've got one of these little magnetic things that expands and contracts. I find it very handy. You're going to drop a small screw inside this box. That's for certain. This is nice for digging that out of there. This little clamp is also, there's some little nuts inside here that you just don't have room for your finger and your thumb to fit in there. But you can clamp those in there, and these things lock up tight. You can clamp the little nut. Now, let me get rid of some of the stuff on my fingers. You can clamp that little nut right in here, and yeah, you notice that it's bent. I mean, you can just reach right in there and hold that nut right where you need it as you're trying to turn the screw that goes into the nut. So that's pretty handy. Need one medium-sized screwdriver to take out these screws right here. You need a smallish Phillips and a smallish flat blade screwdriver. These are pretty small screws right here. These are a little bit larger. You got 2 screws here on the side you have to take out. All right, those would fit the medium screwdriver, I'm sure. Yeah. So take this cover off. Then in order to get the ground wire back on, you've got to remove the clicker in there, whatever, I forgot what it's called. You have to remove that. This little gadget that holds the wire, let me see if I can zoom in on that. This little gadget right here that holds the wire in place, that has to be removed. All right. Then what I did was I cut this cord loose, and there was, this is a 12-2 with a ground. So the green wire, that's why you have to remove these 2 screws, because that thing has to come out so you can get the ground wire on. Then I just used wire nuts to connect the white and the black to the proper locations in there. In here, this wire feeds in this hole. This wire feeds in this hole and comes to the front. This new cord feeds in back here and comes all the way to the front. And if you do those wires one at a time, you can't mess it up. Cut one loose and install it. Cut the other one loose and install it. If you cut all 6 of those wires at once, you're asking for trouble. So just cut, and it doesn't take long. I suspect you can have a new cord on this saw. This is not new. This is one of the cords that we use in the construction company. That the ends got all goofed up because they were hanging out the back of the trailer and dragging them down the street. The street acted like sandpaper and just ground the ends off and ruined them. But it's a perfectly good cord for this saw. So that's one of the things I've done is I've added a new cord. Let's swing this around one more shot here. This plate right here that you see, this is made by CMT Orange Tools. That is called an 8-inch set and sand disc. They say it is flat to within a thousandth of an inch. It's an 1/8 inch thick, and that's really nice for, it's easy to put your square against when you're adjusting the heel and the square. It rubs against the square when you're setting the arm square to the fence back here without rubbing teeth against your metal square. It doesn't hurt them any, but that's always bothered me. So I picked this up when I bought my first Delta saw. I had a little 900, and I bought that when I bought this when I bought that saw to do the adjustments on it. Let me talk about the base that I put on it. Okay, nothing fancy here. It's just a base. Let me get the camera down. I'll crank it down lower. If I can get it low enough, then I won't have to take it off the stand. Okay, I think so. I made this stand out of 2x4s, kiln dried 2x4 studs. I ran them through the jointer and got a flat side and a flat edge. Then I ran them through the planer to get them all uniform thickness and smooth and straight. So I got two straight edges on the jointer, and then brought them into dimension and made all four sides smooth on the planer. They ended up being 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch. I would not have even attempted to make my table the way I did if I hadn't had this Dowelmax Junior to put in dowels. This would never be stiff enough if you just tried to screw it or pocket screw it or anything else together. I could have used mortise and tenons, but that's a lot more work. And actually, the dowels are about 30% stronger than a mortise and tenon, unless that mortise and tenon are perfectly done. Then they're about equal. So for each connection, there's four dowels here, 4 here, 4 here. Every connection has 4 dowels in it, except the angle braces. The angle braces have 1 dowel each and a screw. I used a screw to hold them in place so I could drill the dowel hole in them, because I couldn't use the Dowelmax Junior in that circumstances. So each one of these braces has a screw here and a dowel in the same place that holds it together, and it is very rigid. The other thing I did was, because my concrete floor out here is not quite level, there is a 2x4 block cut to the proper length under each vertical leg at the corners. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I put in 3. Well, actually, I put in 4, and then it rocked. So I had to cut the one in the back corner because of my floor. I had to cut that one about 1/4 inch longer in order to get all the rock out of the thing. And it sits there rock solid. I've got 4 swivel casters on it so I can move it all over the shop, and it's very convenient. But I did notice when I was moving it how bad my floor is, because the thing is so rigid that if it hits a low spot in the floor, one of the wheels isn't on the ground. Well, I didn't want it sitting there like that for fear that over time this would rack because of the 270 pounds of saw sitting on top of it. So you add the weight of the saw plus the weight of the top plus the weight of the frame itself. You're getting some pretty good weight on there. It could very well sag. So by putting I'm going to crank this up a little. By putting the I accidentally hit the button back there and shut the camera off for a second. Well, that's about all I've done. Nothing really important. I did mention you're going to need 6 wire nuts to do the wiring. And for this bigger saw, I would definitely recommend 12-2 with a ground. And I put, well, that started out as a 25-foot cord, and so I've got about 20 feet of it left. I wanted a nice long cord so it would reach across the shop to plug into the outlet without having to rewire my shop. I am fortunate, fortunate and unfortunate. The washer dryer takes up a big bunch of space in my shop, but at least the washing machine has a 20 amp circuit on it, and this is a 17 amp saw. It needs a 20 amp circuit. And it needs to be on its own circuit, which it is. When I unplug the washing machine and plug this in, it's the only thing on that circuit. So that's kind of a plus. Well, I did put the sacrificial top on temporarily. It's just screwed on, so I can remove it. And I used a countersink bit. The countersink bit to set all the screws, and it took 3 more screws than I thought. There was just a little looseness right across the front edge, so I added 1, 2, 3 screws there. But other than that, it's all down tight, easy to remove. I put a little oil finish on it. Didn't need to, just did. And well, that's about it for an update. And so we're getting there. It's going to take, you know, I got another hour or 2 or 3 of futzing with it to get it the way I want it. But I think I'm going to be very pleased with this larger saw when I'm finished. Thanks for watching.